Devin Haney is taking on Vasiliy Lomachenko May 20th, MGM Grand, Las Vegas. All the belts, the lightweight Super Bowl. You got best versus best, a very technical fight, but you got a guy in Devin Haney who has all the belts. He's one of the youngest champions in the sport. Then you got the grizzled old veteran in Vasiliy Lomachenko, who has every accolade in the book besides one. He's never been undisputed. He's a 3-division world champion, but has never had all 4 of the belts in one division. He's tried numerous times, came up short against Teofimo Lopez, had to go back to the drawing board, but now he's back taking on Devin Haney. This, I feel like, will be a very technical fight, but I think it's going to be a really good one May 20th.
Very important fight that needs to happen. And for a couple of reasons. One, it's just, the landscape of the lightweight division. Lightweight division is one of the deepest in boxing today. And we have an undisputed champion, and a lot of people like to talk trash about him, about his ability the belts that he's gotten. He got his first belt in the mail. We're talking about Devin Haney now.
I was going to say, which one are you talking about? Because both guys, I feel like there's question marks around them.
Well, I mean, Lomachenko's question marks are a little different. It's more related to his age and if he's as good as he used to be and whatnot, which I am on the other side of that fence. I think Lomachenko's awesome. I think he's still a great fighter, and I think this fight really matters. And I think that either way, the winner of this fight is going to be ultimately rightfully recognized as the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. And Haney, he beat a weak champion, especially an undisputed one. I thought it was. I mean, he beat Kambosos, who beat Lopez on just what I thought was just an off night on Lopez's part. And then we got all those belts, and then Haney beats him. It's kind of like it's not the best fighting the best. Now this fight is. I think that Lomachenko, who's been there before, he's been around for a while. This is a true passing of the guard type fight, and I do believe that's going to happen. I got Haney winning this fight, especially because what you just said. If this is a technical fight, it's all Haney. Lomachenko's shot in this fight is to make it a war. He's got to go after him. He's got to push him. He's got to do things that Haney doesn't want to do. Haney doesn't like to fight those kinds of fights. And Lomachenko can do it. People think of him as just a technical boxer, but when he wants to get inside and do work and put pressure, he did at the end of the Lopez fight. He's going to have to do that from the opening bell, because if he stays on the outside with Haney, he's going to get picked apart.
He has to get inside, and this fight's going to come down to that. I feel like the X's and O's of this fight is Lomachenko pushing the pace, angles, and getting inside as the shorter guy, and it's going to be Haney's jab, which is probably the best jab at the lightweight division right now in terms of activity. I think he throws it like 25, 30 times, lands it at a 25% clip, which is number one at lightweight. It's his best punch.
The size difference is ridiculous too, by the way.
Yeah, it's huge. Like when they met in the ring.
People don't know how differently built these people are. Like Haney's a huge 35-pounder. He's going to easily be 150, 155 in the ring that night, probably maybe even more. Lomachenko's going to be 141 in the ring. Like, they're going to be completely different sized people on fight night, and I don't think people really understand that, because Lomachenko's not a 35-pounder. He's better served for 130, and Haney isn't really a 35-pounder anymore. He's probably a 40-pounder. So we got guys who are fighting in basically 2 weight classes apart, and yeah, I've been around both men. I know what their physical sizes are like, and I don't think people at home really understand that.
It's an ESPN Plus pay-per-view, priced at $60, which is relevant because the Tank Ryan Garcia fight just got announced for $84.99. That's pretty steep. $60, only 3 fights on the pay-per-view portion. That was interesting to me. Usually pay-per-views standard 4 fights, but they are putting 2 fights, Juko Nakatani versus Maloney, on regular ESPN leading into the pay-per-view, which UFC does beautifully. They'll have 2 free fights, and then they'll maybe show like a little bit of the pay-per-view on ESPN, and then go order the pay-per-view now. So it's going to be a really good night of fights all around. But I really like this fight, Haney and Lomachenko, because I love a good storyline. And like you kind of touched on this too, it's like Devin Haney, email champ. I'm not saying these things. These are the things that have been floating around Devin Haney his whole career.
The mutterings on the interwebs.
Yeah, the critics. The email champ, which he couldn't do anything about. He just was in a position any fighter would have taken that belt the same way. He got paid a lot of money from Matchroom, and he did not deliver in terms of like ticket sales and all that. But he did fight some good opponents, but it was like never the elite of the elite. And then he lucks out and gets a Kambosos fight and beats him twice. I mean, he had to do that, and he left Top Rank. He left Matchroom, and he goes to Top Rank, and he gets those fights. But there are a lot of questions about Haney. But if Haney can go in and beat a Lomachenko, even Lomachenko at this advanced age and not looking as good as he did in previous fights, especially that Ortiz fight. So that's what's going for Haney. Then you look at the other side with Lomachenko, who obviously we're big fans of, and I'm a fan of all fighters, especially guys at the elite level. But there are a faction of fans out there that believe that Lomachenko is overrated. They believe that he was given preferential treatment from Top Rank, ESPN, the Matrix stuff, over the top, and all that, and he isn't as good as everyone makes him out to be. He can certainly, not that he has to, disprove anyone at this point. But it's the same thing like with Canelo and maybe taking on Benavidez. Like, there are a lot of questions about Lomachenko's perennial top 10 pound for pound type of guy. He can go in and take out Haney, who is like 23 or 24 years old, who we're looking at as a young stud. That's another feather in the cap, as you like to say, Chris, for Lomachenko if he's able to take out Haney in this fight. I love the storylines.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. Boxing is, what have you done for us lately? And Lomachenko, unfortunately, hasn't been doing a whole lot. His last fight was the Ortiz fight, like you mentioned, which wasn't a great fight. But before that, everyone forgets that he would have fought Kambosos if not for the Ukrainian,
Yeah, that fight was signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, that was the fight.
It just wasn't delivered.
He would have. Listen, I think, yeah, exactly. And listen, he would have beat him. He would have beat Kambosos. So he would have got those titles. And so it's crazy to me that people just completely write him off because he didn't look good in his last fight and he hasn't been in the ring in a while. But yeah, that's boxing. Because like you just said, he goes and he beats Haney, that all goes away. Well, Lomachenko's back in the top 5 pound for pound. He's the man again. And, it's possible. Like I said, I don't think so. I think Haney's going to win the fight. But, my broadcast partner, Paul Manaji, thinks it could.
Well, he doesn't. He has a beef with Haney.
He thinks it could be. He doesn't.
It's like personal.
Well, you can go listen to what he thinks about him.
He's personal.
But yeah, he thinks that Lomachenko has a good chance to win that fight.
Yeah, I know that like they were beefing back and forth, Paulie and Haney. I don't know. That's a whole other story for another day. Paulie tends to go down those paths.
Paulie's had a beef with everybody.
Even active fighters, where usually it's like fighters like yourself and that, or some of these guys that the last generation is usually like looks at the past one and like tries to help them out or speaks glowingly of them, but not Paulie. He'll just he's got a beef with Haney, but I like this fight. I'm happy it's happening.
What's the undercard look like? You mentioned that
there is an undercard. I gotta pull it up right now. It's a pretty good one. What the hell is it? You put me on the spot here.
It better be if there's only 3 fights. Jeez.
No, it's a pretty good undercard. It's all set too.
Speaking about that price tag though. So if you really think about what that reason for is, because I think there's a lot of crossover pull for Garcia and Davis, so they're gonna jack that price up. They can get these kids who are dying to see Ryan. These people. Who
I get why
Davis.
they're making it 85.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense that they're doing that, and that this one, which is more of a hardcore boxing fan fight, even though Lomachenko was a big crossover guy because the style was so weird.
Everyone knows him.
Yeah, everybody knows him. He's the Matrix. He does things. Like his highlight reel is insane.
He's been around for a while.
If you want to talk about Lomachenko, go watch his highlight reel. He does things that no one else can do.
The man beat Gary Russell Jr. in what, like his fourth fight?
In like his 4th fight. Yeah, that was the week after I won my title against Ruslan. I remember watching it. Yeah. I was down in Clearwater Beach celebrating my belt, and I'm watching that fight. It was the week after.
Yeah, those are good times. That's the HBO days. I mean, that's like HBO. Like Lomachenko was the HBO was like that was his. He was there. I mean, HBO and Lomachenko went hand in hand for a while, and that's definitely helped build him up there. But a strong undercard will feature Andrew Maloney facing off with Junto Nakatani for the vacant WBO junior bantamweight title. That's on regular ESPN. The return of Oscar Valdez against Adam Blue Nose Lopez. In a junior lightweight rematch.
Think about it. That's a rematch. Yeah, that's a rematch where my boy Blue Nose dropped Valdez and took the fight on a day's notice, jumped to a weight class. That storyline's cool.
If Valdez wins, he will face Navarrete. sometime probably
Good fight.
in the fall. And then we got Jeremiah Nakatila meeting Raymond Muratalla at lightweight. So it's a good card. I mean, these are good names. Like we see like this last week with Caleb Plant and Benavidez. Like, let's make these cards like 4 compelling fights. Like let's get that going. Let's make that a trend, because I thoroughly enjoyed the Showtime pay-per-view with Plant and Benavidez, because every fight there meant something. And that's what like kind of the UFC does. And like every fight, if there's a storyline, if there's a path, like we know what's going to happen after the fight, like a path to a bigger fight, like bring me those types of fights on pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, you gotta listen. You gotta do it for the fans. You gotta make them want to tune in. And if you just have a top heavy card, it just sucks because that fight doesn't happen until midnight anyway. So you got people who are like, I'm watching these fights I don't really want to watch in the prime time of watching, and they're like trying to stay up, because I know I'm trying to stay up for that main event a lot of the time. It's tough when you're on the East Coast. So you gotta pack these cards, and we're seeing that more and more, which is great. I love this card even as well, because you're going to introduce the fans to people. The Muratalla he's a stud.
Yeah, Junto Nakatani
like that kid.
too.
Nakatani and Nakatila. I mean, that guy's trouble. He's the one who destroyed Burchelt. But yeah, I mean, I think it introduces some of the younger generation, which is really smart on Top Rank's part. But Top Rank's really smart in the way that they build guys and introduce them to the fan base, and this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, next time I have Espinosa on the show, or if I see him in Vegas, I'm gonna ask him why they put the main event on so late. Not to sound like an old washed guy, but like, come on, like 12:30. What other sport does this? Like, no, baseball doesn't do it. Like, NFL doesn't do it. NBA doesn't.
Nothing does it.
NBA finals start at like 9, but that's still like that's the game starting at 9. If the main event of a big fight started at 9, I feel like you would get more views, but I don't know.
I don't think any should fight anything. I don't think anything should go past midnight. That just doesn't make sense in my mind at all. Nothing should go past midnight. If we would finish up main events by 11:30 p.m., I mean,
it'd be more time for, like, I'm thinking like a creator, like more time for me to do like post-fight stuff, and like I feel like some of these afternoon shows in the UK, I'm able to put out content and get the word out there better. Must be strange though for you to get into a ring like you at 11:30 at night. Like,
it's not.
But do you spar, like, you train during the day? Like, do you ever adjust your sparring to know that I'm going to be fighting at 11 p.m.?
Yeah, we move them later, but like it's like anything. It's like traveling for a fight or traveling for anything. There's a lag, but you just get used to it. Fight week, you sleep so much. Like especially the last like 2 days. I sleep like 14 hours the night before a fight.
Really?
So I wake up and
I'd be pacing.
I sleep. Oh, no, I sleep like a baby the night before. I can't sleep at night after a fight, but I'm sleeping all night during the day. I'm taking naps, take them 2-hour naps in the middle of the afternoon that day. So by the time we fight, I mean, I don't want to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I've been sleeping for the past, out of the past 48 hours, I've slept for like 22 of them. So I'm
Whereas Deontay Wilder, for the rematch with Fury, lost weight from the weigh-in to the night of the fight because he said he was pacing back and forth in his hotel room. But that nervous
that
energy
didn't work out for him.
No.
That didn't work out for him.
No, but it's crazy.
You got to be relaxed.
Yeah.
Fighters need to be chill. You need to save it for the fight.
One last thing on Devin Haney, and I think this could be another good trend that we can see with fighters. This guy has managed his career beautifully. From the start of starting his own promotion company when he was 18 or 19. I mean, not everyone has these resources like a father with the funds and all that. But for him to he was independent. Like, I remember watching him fight on Showbox, coming up the ranks, like putting on his own shows where he was on. And then he gets the bag from Matchroom, and he gets a lot of money from Matchroom. But he did take on some good fights with Linares and Jojo Diaz. And then he figures out where I'm at my career, what is the best way for me to make the fights that everyone wants to see, that I want to see for my legacy. He goes to Top Rank, and a lot was made of that, of him like signing away his career and taking less money. That's all BS. Like, he made a good amount of money to fight Kambosos. It wasn't anything like a huge pay cut to do that, but he decided to do it. He's the one who put he signed on the dotted line because he knew he would get a shot at Kambosos, even if he had to go to Australia twice to become undisputed. Now he's fighting Lomachenko, where he's the A side, in a big pay-per-view for all the belts, which a lot of the guys at 135 would love to be in that position. So I think he has played it perfectly, And I think it's a good example of a fighter not being married to one promoter for 6-7 fights and being more of a free agent while still working with a promotion.
Well, you couldn't say it better. The resources matter. Who you have around you matters. It's been scripted. He's been groomed since he was a child to be this guy, and he has a lot of people around him who are really smart and who know the game, and they're making power moves. They're making very educated moves. They're making a lot of moves behind the scenes. So this would be one of those things, guys. Who go, oh, that's the way to do it, man. You can't do that. You can't do what this kid did. You don't have the resources of the people around you to do it. Yeah, it's good. This seems like a perfect route, and this would be the idea. This is the archetype of how you're. No way. No, you can't do it. Trust me.
You're talking about like Bill Haney, his dad, who's now his manager and like trainer and like all that. Like he was bankrolling his career early with like.
Yeah, I met Devin when he was 11 years old in Vegas, and he was coming to watch my sparring. And his father was getting involved with the sport, and he had fighters that he was helping to manage. I sparred with a couple of his guys, and Devin was always there. And that was always the plan. This is nothing new. This has been orchestrated, just like Floyd Mayweather was. Floyd Mayweather was orchestrated from birth to be who he was. And he obviously had the great amateur background, which Haney does as well. Caught the attention of everyone. Was in Vegas, which is the hub of all the business side of boxing and on this side of the world. So yeah, they were very intertwined. So these a lot of young kids who want to like go that route. Good luck.
Okay, but if let's say you don't have the funding, obviously, and you can't have your dad do that for you, you would sign with like a Top Rank then, right? And then you would get into these long-term deals.
You'd be married to that. You would be married there, and you'd be stuck. And then because they get you early when you have nothing, and most guys don't even have a lawyer to look at their contract the first one they sign. So very very different world, but. This is the perfect way to do it, and they've executed perfectly. But at the end of the day, the kid always had to win.
Exactly, and number one.
He's always at the end of the day. You have to train hard. You have to be disciplined. You have to stick to the game plan. And I think his mindset, his discipline, and his training has separated him from all the other guys at 135.
Yeah. His mindset is also like to be great. Like he's like talking about legacy all the time, and he really means it. Like he's 23. He's now like in one big fight after the next. That's how you do it. Like, this is how you do it. This is how you build a career, and, like, this is the way to do it. Make some big fights in your 20s and establish yourself while you're still young, and you can make 135 at 23 years old. And I wouldn't say does it comfortably, but he could still make the weight. But, yeah, he did still sign with Matchroom, though. He had to align with promoters, but he did it, like, smartly, and he was.
Yeah, but we don't know these deals, right?
Exactly.
Signing with a promoter for most people is like, oh, you got a 5-year deal. With 2 years extended, that's what most of the guys sign. But they're like signing for fights. So it's like, oh, I signed with Matchroom, but how many fights did you really sign with? 2?
I think it was a 3.
How do we get out of it?
It had to be a 3
fight. Fights.
I think Haney was a 3-fight deal, and then
nothing has to be anything. That's the thing about contracts. Like a lot of guys, when you come in, it's like it has to be this. It never has to be anything. You can always negotiate. So it could have been a 2-fight deal, and then we do a +1, whatever. But that's the behind the scenes stuff that people would never understand or know about.
Yeah, but to see him go, like, no other fighter has really done this. To go from Matchroom to Top Rank at 23 and then jump right into big fights, like, it's unheard of.
Good lawyers. Yeah. Good negotiating, good management from Bill. Bill's the man.
I like Bill Haney.
You got good lawyers who make ironclad contracts. It takes like you said, resources, and I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about access to minds and people and professionals who can help you.
Yeah, love that. Big fight.
A lawyer is your best friend in boxing, dude.
Yeah, it's such a
lawyer is your best friend.
It's litigation, man. You're fighting the opponent. You're fighting the promoter. You need.
You know how many times I've been sued?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's such a wild west. But Devin Haney is an example of someone that's kind of circumnavigated and worked himself into a really good position. And he fights Vasiliy Lomachenko May 20th. We'll have a lot more coverage of that fight in the lead up. Let's talk Virgil